Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. Get ready for Gnosis. Well, there's some good news here, and there's lots I'm going to be reporting in the next few weeks as we go into a new year. Like that means anything, but it does. I think it's important to mark milestones within your life. Like I try and start every Friday if you're going through problems. Well, this is the start of a new way of operating. So maybe you didn't do too well in the beginning of the week. Well, let's start Friday again. You keep doing that. I think it's important to have little goals like that, and also to have times where this is a society symbol of something new in the beginning. I don't know if it's new, but it's a cycle we're going into. And this coming year is going to be fascinating, and I'm going to go into that with other lectures. But I have good news in my continuing series on the electronic, psychotronic harassment and attack of the human populace. And this is pandemic out there that people are having these kind of problems, but we also have a whole bunch of other problems that may not be directly linked to this. And is it a direct attack? Is it coming from different areas? Are there certain people that are targeted in different ways? Well, there is a lot of that, but I also believe that there is a direct connection between mental functioning and your state of well-being. One of the things pointed up with this new virus, and interestingly enough, with the Spanish flu of the past, which is about 100 years ago, is the strange mental effects of people that have this condition and survive. And I think this is something that goes on with our entire society. Why are we such a destructive, evil group of people? And it's inherently within us. You get people bored, and they will produce all sorts of evil actions. They're not going to do good stuff. They're going to find how they can victimize and hurt others. And I've noticed this throughout life, and went through an incident of this, which I'll talk about at some other time. Now, what is this? And what does it come down to? Well, I think we have to start looking at not only outside effects, but the biological effect that we are as human beings. So if you're sick, if you have the flu or you have something else, and let's not say it's something tragic, but of course a lot of us are living with one type of illness or another. Is your thinking perfect? Are you making all the right decisions? And let's say you're even kind of feeling good and you don't have any of the doctory little notes saying that you have a problem. Does that mean you don't have a problem? Well, we all know that you're full of toxemia, meaning you got worms in your head, you got worms in your body, your entire body is full of bacteria, parasites, and you're a mixture of globby, gluey garbage, which is stuck in this kind of little battery, which is basically, this little battery is stimulating and keeping alive all the parasites. Take the battery out, and to a large extent you would kill these things. But parasites, of course, live in their own ways. And the whole story of parasites is quite frightening. I've already talked about this with these real, and this is not contrived, this is not something that came from extraterrestrials per se. We're not really sure 100%, but the bottom line, these are physical entities that are in your brain, and they tell you to do all sorts of terrible things, including kill yourself. Well, it can't get too much worse than that. So what does that mean? So the whole idea is you're now supposed to, with all these things in you, you're supposed to think properly. Well, it's ridiculous. The other thing is that while I've heard this for many years, I've stumbled back into it and I've listened to a lot of and read a lot of books on your immune system. And we talk about our immune system, and everybody gets so centered on different areas, and we get brain centered and everything. But the bottom line is that your immune system, as well as so many other chemicals, are produced in your gut, and your gut is another brain. Now, I've heard this for years. I finally got into this, and you've got 3 brains in your body that produce brain chemicals. Do you get that? Oh, well, you're only producing things out of your mind and in your brain, which is between your ears. Wrong. No, you produce brain chemicals, so many of these endorphins and so many other things that are brain-based, which, it's boring to go into a long list of things. But the bottom line is that your brain produces all these chemicals, and we talk about it. When you do certain activities, you take drugs, you have sex, all of this produces certain chemical reactions within your brain, but not only. These same chemicals are produced from your heart and from your gut. Shocking, isn't it? So, as usual, everybody is centered on this one particular thing. And people get too centered on the fact that everything is brain-based. And the bottom line is it's not. And the consciousness creates the brain. The brain doesn't create consciousness. This is another thing that I've tried to tell people as well. So it's a chicken and the egg thing, but the bottom line is that the brain is just there. And it is just a channel I've talked about before, which I'm not going to go into here again. But people don't get that. They think everything is coming from the brain. Well, people have had different organs transplanted, and they weren't the brain transplanted. Nope. Kidneys, livers, other things. And one guy had, I believe, I'm not sure if it was a liver or something else, but it was taken from a teenager. And after the transplant, which did not, remember, everything I'm going to state right now was not part of his life before that. He wanted to listen to rock and roll music. He never listened to rock and roll before. He had a fascination with teenage girls. And the list goes on and on of things that were teenage-based. He liked fast cars. He never liked fast cars before. So all the teenage things, because he had this organ, non-brain-based, put into him, all of a sudden. So transfer of information is in every single cell, as we've talked about before. This is the quantum physics, the energetic informational fields that are in everything. I hate to use quantum physics because they seem to be so goofy and wrong. But basically, when we talk about quantum physics, or either I do, it means that the whole of everything is in everything. So the body isn't in your brain. No, it's in of your organs. They've had people who've transplanted different organs, and their blood type changed. I believe it was a liver or so, but the liver itself changed the blood type in that person. What? I mean, I don't know if people understand the impact of these things, but there is a gross impact here, especially for advanced scientists, such as I, Joe, as scientists, materialize manifesting scientists, the occult scientists. Well, this is fascinating. Because here, again, is the transfer of information. Now, we're trying to transcend this reality, and we're trying to become the state above human, not only in our consciousness, meaning you reach the state of gnosis, but we're trying to reach extreme abilities here. Now, why do people have, and there are people that have all kinds of extreme abilities that are living right now, that there is no rhyme or reason to it. Some are retarded, some are kids. Why? How do we reproduce this is my question. I don't care about the fact that they're an anomaly. Oh, they're an anomaly, let's just throw it away. What are you talking about? You've been given a great seed. Let's find out how to plant that so everybody can increase their abilities. And if people have higher, better abilities, well, hopefully they'll be more spiritually based, or they'll be happier. They'll be able to achieve what they want. So when getting back into all these things, it's important to understand that all these chemicals are there. So what you think is going on isn't. So there's been great thought that there is some sort of beam that is being beamed at people in one way or another. Some people have claimed, and there seems to be some good information to it, that it may be transmitted through your electrical system. Well, why not? That's an ingenious way to send all these toxic, what you could consider psychotronic energy to people where they wouldn't even think about And it goes through this. What a great way to deliver it, and trying to shoot things through, covering through what would be more satellite-based, or even rays of information that you target people with. That seems a lot more difficult than just pumping something into an electrical system, which could be also individualized. They could pick individuals and attach these things to your actual house, like they do with smart meters and other things. And of course, you got to remember that all these people work for the government, just like the post office. They control all of them. They'll do whatever they're told, and they're paid extra for it. So if you don't think that happens, well, why don't you just shut this off, because I don't want to talk to an ignoramus. So the whole idea is that we need to understand this kind of involvement by the actual masses. So as we've went through all of this, we've had more and more information, and we've had contact from several people. And I've had this for years, people saying they're hearing voices or other things. And the first thing everybody wants to tell you, which is part of your knee-jerk reaction to things, just like, did you see, I saw aliens. Were you drunk? Were you high? Are you crazy? Did somebody hit you in the head with a brick? This is what everybody, the minute you say something that is outside of what's commonly accepted, you're labeled as a crank. Well, why is that? Again, you're living in this delusional urban legend projected on you by the rest of society. So it does make sense, but there does seem to be. Now, one of these people who also claimed to have detected some of these sounds coming through electricity also came to the conclusion that a lot of these things, maybe these electronic frequencies that people are hit with, may be stimulating what's already in you. All of these chemtrails that we've had now for 20, 30 years all over the world, that people have actually picked up some of it, and there's been nothing but kind of bacterial junk in there. Well, what is this? If they're dropping these things all over the place and they're entering into your biosystem, well, we don't know how these are affecting people or not. People are getting sicker and sicker. But these may be the seeds that then are amplified and activated through some sort of electronic rays that are being sent to people. Now, these are all very crude. Once you get into the informational energetic fields, you master the planet. And let's thank God that apparently common schmientists and government corruption hasn't got into this that much, apparently, even though they must know this. But the problem is, I don't think they quite understand it. Yes, the government is very advanced in common science. When you get past these things, they don't quite get it. So we're not sure what anybody has or not, but there does seem to be these higher physical things going on. So they drop all this gunk in the sky. It goes in there. It goes into your biosystem. You eat it from plants. You just run into it. It goes into your lungs. All these things happen, so they are sitting there dormant. Now, we already have all these other dormant things in there as well, but there is thought that these things can be heated up or in some way activated, so they start producing parasites in your system. So they're sitting in your gut, they're going into your immune system, and of course they're going into your brain and your other heart, your other brain, your heart. So they go into the three brains and they infect it, and they manifest in one way or another. Now, because of the nature of the digestion system, things can be a little more tested and looked at there. I'm not sure how you test things coming from the heart, but I guess you could with advanced blood testing or other scans. Of course, your brain is another thing that's difficult, but there are ways of checking certain things there as well to a degree. So these things start to hatch, they start to build up, and that what may be what all these frequencies are. Now, we talked about this a wee bit in other discussions, and if you're really interested, you should go back to it. But what have we then discovered yet again? Well, one of the things that's discovered by one of these people is the fact, and we do have in one of our talks on this, one of my lectures, I have a link to this person's page who gives you a cleansing, an herbal cleansing supplements that you take. Now, parasites have always been thought to be a big problem. And the other things are funguses. And this has been a lot of, I heard this many years ago, about 20 years ago. Doctors are specializing in getting rid of funguses. And there actually are prescription drugs to eliminate funguses. There are also prescription drugs to eliminate some parasites. So the point is they have drugs for this because this is a serious problem. It is more than just serious because I think everybody has these into them. Why are you acting so weird? Are you having problems? Do you have some sort of terrible fetish? Are you having some emotional problem? Or you can't concentrate? All the things that we know from people that wash their hands too much, have these things. Well, this is a mental problem, and this doesn't seem to be created by the person's environment, meaning they were traumatized as a child. These kind of things seem to be inherent in people on all sorts of different levels. And I think we can go through any kind of problematic reactions to anything, whether it's as extreme as people who are afraid of all germs, to people that hear voices, to all the other things that people say you're crazy with. But there's a lot of things that be crazy. Are you just rotten? Is evil a parasite? Your corruption level, the fact that you are a person who doesn't care about anybody, you're sociopathic. Well, there's been a lot of research done in this area that has been glossed over. One of the things I remember reading years and years ago was a book called Oxygen Therapies, who's, as usual with me, the author's name escapes me. But there was a little paragraph there that he talked about, and this was using high levels of oxygenation. I believe it was hydrogen peroxide he was mostly working with. And he talked about research that was done in mental institutions. And when people were given large quantities of active oxygen, that they got well. Their mental illnesses disappeared. Well, what does that tell us? Well, that tells us that a virus, and viruses cannot work in a high oxygen environment. So the viruses, and I'm assuming parasites as well, and I'm assuming across the board, cannot live in an oxygen environment. It kills them. Well, that's interesting, because that means that mental illness has been directly connected to viruses and parasites. What does that say? Well, it goes back to these people that are having these problems. All these people, they're crazy. They're hearing voices. This is going on. They're under this attack. Nobody understands why. Why would they be picked? The bottom line is that 90% of the people think they're crazy, which is an interesting term. A term used by a society that is crazy. So how can you call somebody else crazy when you are crazy and you have no answers? But these are frightening. I find mental illness in general, if you've ever been around severely mentally ill people who keep doing very negative practices, and there's virtually nothing you can do for them. What you do is stupefy them. You give them lots of drugs, so you just slow down whatever they do so they don't hurt you or others if they were going to do that. But basically, you just make them into a lump of poo that you put in a chair somewhere. This way, they're not a problem. Nothing is solved. They're just mental psychoticism they have, or whatever you want to call it, their mental illness, is just slowed down so it's not a problem to other people around them. This is not an answer. But we're used to not getting answers, and we pat people on the back for that. Thank you, Doc. Thanks for not curing my dandruff. Thanks that I have still pimples. Thank you, Doc. So we're used to letting that happen, and that's another problem, which I will never stop repeating, that until we get better understandings of what the problem is, the bigger picture, nothing will ever change. And I'm all about change. So the point is, we're used to that. So what this proves, and I'll have to find that study again. It was a very popular book at the time, about 20 years ago, Oxygen Therapies. I forget the guy's name, but I'm sure it could be found easily. Well, this is pretty shocking, isn't it? Another problem, it's kind of cheap. You don't want the drug companies hearing about this, do you? Curing mental cases with cheap stuff? Ooh. Well, they need to go on the oxygen more than anybody to find out, is there evilness created through some sort of bacteriological energy? Is there some sort of spiritual element here that people are all possessed? Well, this is interesting as well. Now, in the ancient religions, who have great medical people, such as the Egyptians and, of course, the Tibetans, which we have a much better knowledge of today, every single disease in the Tibetan healing system has a corresponding demon connected to it. Well, I don't think we should overlook this. This is the, quote, spiritual information energetic fields that we cannot ignore. This is a reality. There are spirits out there. There are people that manipulate them, that send out energy waves. We have pictures of people sending out balls of energy to attack others. Well, this is mind-blowing, and it's 100% proven. Well, the point is that we have to look at, well, what is the factors there? So, is the entire society possessed by some evil spirit? Is this done by certain groups? Are we looking past the crude extraterrestrial viruses that I've talked about? Well, they just have to use a spirit energy field that just possesses one person after another. A lot more efficient even than dumping a bunch of chemicals somewhere. Well, all this is the cutting edge, and nobody talks about this except IGOS, and nobody seems to get it except me. Hopefully, this information will assist people. So we now know that mental illness, along with probably most everything else out there, is created by some fungus parasite virus. And I've said this for years. I think everything's a virus. And I don't think viruses are stupid. They're very smart. Oh, they don't have a vertebrae. I can't be conscious. Are you a stooge? Well, your way of thinking is stoogey to the highest. It's ridiculous. You know everything, of course, don't you? You just don't have any answers. Same old story. Yeah, we know how the world works. We just can't fix nothing. Oh, really? Again, does everybody get that? So when somebody tells you something, well, where is the end result of it? Because it's not gnosis unless it produces something. At least intermittently. So we know that. So the point is that how many problems do we have on physical, psychological? So if you're sick, and they've found this out with the new virus going around at this particular time, that people are having all sorts of traumatic effects from this. It's destroying DNA. It's connecting into other areas, causing people all sorts of problems, mental and physical. Well, it makes a lot of sense. Why would a virus only damage your organ? Oh, it kills you, it goes into your lungs, you can't breathe. Well, yeah. That's a very physical effect. Now, if you survive, well, where did all those toxins go? Oh, they flew out your ears and they're in your hair now and you just cut them off. Well, that'd be nice. It's in your brain, baby, and it ain't going away. So these are all things we have to keep. So what we've had here to kind of sum this up, as usual, I could go on indefinitely, and it should be fascinating to you. But the bottom line is that people are getting great effects, which is eliminating almost 80% of their symptoms. Some higher, some lower, sometimes it comes back, which is interesting, by doing cleansings. Now, cleansings are something you have to look into, and I'll come out with a cleansing book here eventually, where we actually go into all the different ways to cleanse yourself. And you have to be careful, remember. I just had somebody say they're going to take all this black. Well, black walnut is very toxic. You have to take small amounts of it. You don't want to take a bunch of it. herbs are very potent and they can heal or hurt. People have been taking huge amounts of supplements recently, and there's an awful lot of new cases coming up where people have gotten liver and kidney failure. You can't handle all that stuff. You're already got kidneys and livers that aren't doing too good, and if you pump a bunch of stuff through them, well, this is a very load on them. You have to be careful. Potent supplements and herbs, which I've used extensively in the last few years, work fantastically, but you have to be careful. It's a natural substance. You just eat a lot of it. When you don't, if your body doesn't use it, it just kicks it out. Well, that's not entirely true. While it's kicking it out, it could be destroying that organ. I just read an article that stated a person got kidney failure from taking huge amounts of green tea tablets. Now, when you get these things and you start making them into stronger preparations, they can become very toxic and deadly. The same thing with fish oils, which I have taken for years. They're too condensed and too potent. They're not good for you. And they come from the ocean. They are garbage for you. You get much better assimilation and safety when you use a vegetable-based linseed, hemp, and it can go on. Avocado oils, walnut oil. I drink all of these, small amounts of it. And they're not expensive, even though they are expensive in the little bottles. But if you buy tablets or capsules where they're sealed in there, well, these are horribly expensive. And what's interesting is these oils kind of taste good. So you have to go and use things. Now there's echinacea, a classic one, golden seal, lolabella, very powerful, which I found used recently that cleaned up some intestinal problems. Surprisingly. Took a rash away. Niacin, borax, oregano, chlorella. Chlorella and spirulina are fantastic sun energies. Bentonite clay, which sucks out stuff. Of course, magnesium and potassium. And of course, there are parasite cleaners, which have a lot of other things. I've just given you some basic things here. It's a lot more than that to get a good cleanse. And there are good kits you can get out there that are parasite cleansers. And I recommend everybody use these in general. But again, be careful. More is not better. But cleaning your kidneys and liver out and making sure that you have the proper gut bacterias, which you get from eating well. But, how do you eat well? And it means you have to take supplements. What's the best? And remember, things that you think are good, like yogurt, is garbage. Nothing more than sugar water, or I should say milk water, or milk sugar. Candy has the same calories as ice cream. I prefer to eat ice cream. There's more positive things in ice cream than there is in what you usually get. And there are other things to do as well when you're bringing up your energy cells. Now, we highly recommend, and the person who got good results also use these products, and is that you use our prana disc. This brings up the vibrations in your cellular structure. And this is going to make all these things work better. And these things should be worn consistently, and then they should be worn intermittently after your cleansings and everything else. The other thing is to make sure that you surround yourself with a good 8 hertz energy field. And we have 8 hertz generators, which we have boosted dramatically with tachyons and other energy fields. So it's a combination of things, and you want to help your body as much as possible. If your body's trying to fight all these things and you're not giving it a boost by energizing your cellular energies, which is what the pranic disc does, based on Blavatsky's understanding of cell energies, then your body has to work harder, and maybe it's not going to work as good, and you're not going to flush out. So it's important. If you're not surrounded by the magical energies, which is 8 hertz, which is what is life affirming, and the actual frequency that every healer, psychic, anybody that does anything above commonness goes into 8 hertz. So you want these fields around you. You want these fields hitting all your supplements you're taking. And of course, you can take supplements and do it inexpensively if you make your own tinctures. And not only that, which is even more important, you can make them extremely potent, because what you get from the stores is made for profit, and they're not very strong. And I've used a lot of these for years and got mediocre. When I made my own using large amounts of herbs, I got kick-ass formulas. And it's very easy to do. So these are all important things to keep in mind, but this is a major breakthrough that we've now had confirmed from several sources. So if you are going through any of this, or even if you're having any kind of problems, bad thoughts, negative, self-destructive, depression, you got to remember, it's just not having happy thoughts. Are you depressed? Everybody's depressed. Why is that? Is that a normal state? Well, your gut's producing all these toxins. You have all of these parasites depressing you so they can kill you. And you're making all sorts of bad decisions. You actually think you're going to reach extreme abilities, that you're going to have strong psychic functioning when your mind is all messed up. And everything you go through has an effect on your mind. You take a drug, for fun or not. You drink alcohol, your mind is getting affected. You take ayahuasca, your mind is being affected. You take aspirin, your mind is being affected. You're taking drugs for any kind of condition you have, medications, and it is going through your head. It doesn't stop at the organ. I think people think, well, I got a headache, I take an aspirin, so the aspirin only goes to the head. Well, it's not true. It's thinning your blood. That's how aspirin works. It doesn't thin the blood in your head. It thins all your blood. So, all of these things have to be taken into consideration. This is something that we have to look more seriously in and what the average person can handle. Now, I'm hoping, as I said, to put together things, if nothing else, booklets to tell you what to get. There are sources you can get things inexpensively, how to mix them, how to make your own tinctures. It's really simple, and it's cheap. One of the problems with supplements and herbs and tinctures is they're very expensive, $15, $25 a bottle for what's considered very weak stuff. When you can make about half a gallon of a tincture, probably for $20 or $30, compared to what would be $300 or $400 or maybe more for those little bottles at $25 each. So there's ways to beat all this, and this is something that is out there. Now, we're hoping to get into the non-physical realities, which is what we're working on right now, to create energetic informational fields to go in and kill these parasites and flush them out of your body. But there is a problem with killing too many parasites off too quickly and not flushing them out. But this is, of course, what we're working on, is to do everything from a informational energy source, and this will save you tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands in your life long term, and will be able to handle things that are metaphysical and spiritual illnesses to the highest possible degree. But right now, physical items work and work well, and we need to stay with these until we have perfected this technology with the bio machines, the bio suits, the bios, everything else, to tap into these energies and go after these particular parasitic energies that are in us and eliminate them from our brain, which is difficult. There are certain drugs and antibiotics. Well, these things also have negative effects while they're killing the parasites. But don't think that you are just sick, that you just have a disease. That is affecting the way you think. And to a lot of people, I think it's affecting them dramatically. And we have to go into the things that don't appear to be illnesses. As I've mentioned, why are people so psychotically evil? Why are people so backstabbing, so sociopathic? I mean, we can go on and on. Why do people act the way they do? Well, you can say a lot of this stuff is cultural. And of course, there is to a degree. But what I found almost universally with everyone is everybody knows what's right or wrong. I mean, there's been some philosophers that state the first thing you do to move a society is to convince them what you are telling them to do is the right thing to do. Well, if they were all just corrupt and bought, you wouldn't have to do that. But there's a conflict in people, and of course everyone gives in because of the survival nature of having a roof over your head and a job. But the bottom line is that they actually know what is right or wrong. And I think we all know what's right. We all have this built into it, and it isn't just because of our society structure, because these things tend to be universal, and I mean universe. They're intergalactic. People know you don't rob, rape, murder, steal from people. You just don't do this. It's just not right. I don't know of any culture that verifies that within their own culture. There are cultures like the Gypsies that say it's okay to steal from other people, but don't steal from us. There are religions that tell you to go and kill infidels, but don't kill your own people. So they know what's right or wrong, and then of course they bend it to their own perversions, and this can be directly connected to some sort of parasite or virus in them. And we have to understand that this is affecting us mentally. This is affecting our moral compass, our universal law understanding, and it may be done deliberately. You know, it's a very complicated world out there in every single way, and it seems so strange that we have so many problems. We have people act in so many ways that are completely self-destructive to people that live on the same planet that you do. Does this make sense? There's something past this. And why is it okay to make as much money as you can with dangerous, toxic, harmful technologies when you could make just as much money with good technology? Why would you do that? Isn't that going against common, basic sense, which in the end is also self-empowerment? Well, if your world is better, if the sewers are putting out better water that doesn't affect you and your family, well, wouldn't that be good? Wouldn't that be good for the whole prop? Wouldn't that make you more money? If there were more healthy people to buy your products, to work in your factories? So I just don't get this. Well, no, we'll make money off of their illness. Well, what kind of sick thinking that is that? That sounds like a parasite talking to me. So these are all the things we have to keep in consideration. This is good news. So if you're having any of these problems, make sure you go and do some cleansings. There are books you can read about online for free and websites of how to do parasite cleanses, which we all should do. But if you're having this, make sure you do it in a serious way. There are different things you can use. We're going to make books and information, but there's a lot out there for free. Just go out and look for it and follow through with this. At the very least, get a parasite detox tinctures. They're all over the place. You can get these on eBay. You can get them on Amazon. I will probably put a link underneath this of one of these little kits you can get. They're all good. Are they great? No, but it's a good place to start, and it's a good place to start putting your energy into. Also, I recommend, of course, taking probiotics. Let's clean up your intestinal tract, particularly after you do a cleanse, which will probably kill some of the positive stuff as long as the bad stuff, and make sure that you redo that. Fill it back up with positive. Try and eat better, which is difficult for everybody, and stay away from, of course, the usual sugars and all the things that are fun and interesting, and get into other things. Kefir without sugar in it is great for you. Regular yogurts that are made properly without sugars. They have to be. Greek yogurt apparently is better, but I'm going to do a little thing on yogurt here soon. But all these is a great way. Now here's an answer, like everything else that a person of gnosis will give you, is not fear, is not the fact that nothing can be done, will not give you hopelessness. A person of gnosis gives you answers, directions, and practical tools, practical information to change your life and usurp evil and take care of your life and achieve extreme abilities for you and your entire society. Until next time.